nutritious meal, very easy to make. The most time-consuming thing is getting all your ingredients ready. I've got some cooked rice here. It's a great dish to make with leftover rice. Do remember, it's really important when you cook rice after it's been strained, and again, make sure you're careful, always have an adult with you when you do that because of the steam. Any rice that you're going to keep that you want to put into the fridge, it's really important to cool down very rapidly. So put it into a colander or have it in the colander after you've poured it through, and pour cold water over it in the colander to cool it down. And what that does is, as well as cooling down your rice, it washes off any excess starch. The minute dry starch like pasta or rice is cooked and it becomes moist, it starts breeding bacteria. Bacteria grow on that starch. And so in order to reduce that, if you're going to keep it in the fridge, it's really important. So this rice, I cooked yesterday, poured it into the colander, and then I washed it under the tap, cooled it down, let all the water come out, and then poured it into this bowl and covered it and put it into the fridge. So I've got 500 grams of rice there. You can make as much or as little of this as you want. I've got onions, because I ran out of spring onions, but you can use either or. Obviously use my bridge and claw to cut that, but with spring onions you can either slice it using your bridge and claw or you can use your scissors. Peppers, I've got some mushrooms here just to show you again. So obviously if I'm using my bridge, I'm doing that. If I'm using my claw, I'm doing that. Okay, so I've just quartered these, put them in there. I've got some broccoli because I had some in the fridge, and my garlic. In my sauce mix, I've got soy sauce, fish sauce, sesame oil. Remember, obviously, don't use that if you are allergic. And rice wine vinegar. I'm going to keep my vegetable oil separate because that's what I'm going to start the cooking process with. I'm going to use 3 eggs, and I'm just going to hold them over the bowl like that, tap it with the back of the knife. And the reason we do that is so that we don't make a huge mess. Obviously, there's lots of other ways, just cracking it on the side of the bowl. Okay, and I'm going to use 3 eggs. If you're going to cook this for the whole family, then you might want to double the recipe. Okay, so that's my protein. I've got my eggs, got all my vegetables, I've got my carbohydrates, so it's a really, really nice, nutritious meal. Great thing to do with leftover rice, and let's get cooking. Right, boys, so I've got all my ingredients ready here on the side. I've brought everything over to the stove, so I'm ready to go. I don't need to go rushing around for anything. Remember when we put the gas on, to be careful. I have got my wok here. You might want a non-stick pan, which will make less of a mess. It's totally up to you. Right, so I'm going to put the gas on. Remember, when we're using a wok, we want it to get nice and hot, or any pan, nice and hot before we add the oil. Otherwise, you'll have smoke everywhere as the oil reaches smoking point. I'm just going to whisk up my eggs lightly on the side. And then my vegetable oil, when the pan is nice and hot, I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so of vegetable oil to the pan, and then just saute off my vegetables. As I said, I've got onions here. That's half an onion. You can use spring onions, which is in the recipe. I just didn't have any today. So you could use red onion if you like as well, if you'd like the colour. You can, of course, put herbs in this if you want to put some coriander afterwards, right at the end, or more spring onions, you can do that. Right, so because I'm using onion, I'm going to pop that in. Okay, remember to hold on to the handle. I'm going to pop in my mushrooms. Okay, so I'm just going to get them nice and... When mushrooms cook, they release a lot of liquid, so you will see that they start to do that, which is why it's important to put them into a really hot pan. Whoops. Okay, and then I'm going to put my peppers and my broccoli in. So you can choose what vegetables you like to put in. I've used a selection. Again, it's a great way to use up leftovers because I've used up vegetables I've got in my fridge and rice. If you've got leftover from a meal, you can use that to stir fry egg rice. Okay, so I'm stirring my vegetables, making sure that they all start cooking away. They will get a little bit of colour, which is nice. You want them to do that a little bit, but obviously I don't want them to burn, which is why I'm stirring continuously. So if you're going to use broccoli, make sure you cut them quite small, little florets, because obviously they take longer to cook. So if they're smaller, they're going to cook a little quicker. Okay, when I'm happy that my vegetables have got some colour and that my broccoli has started softening, if you're using it, you want it to have a bit of crunch. Okay. I'm now going to pop in my egg mixture and I'm going to continuously stir at the bottom of my pan once it's in, because you want to break it up. Okay, so I'm doing that. Okay, so I'm just cooking off my egg with the vegetables. If you're allergic to egg or you don't eat egg, you can of course leave this out. You can still make a lovely flavoured rice. It doesn't have to be egg rice. Okay, so I'm going to let that cook for a little bit. And then I'm going to pop in my rice. Okay, so basically what I'm doing now is I'm heating through the rice. Once the rice is in, you don't want to be stirring it too frequently because it can break up a lot and you can end up just with a mushy mess. Okay, and it's the same when if you are cooking rice specifically. You can see I'm using my spoon sort of in bigger movements. Okay. Okay, you can add a pinch of salt at this point if you would like to. Right, remember that your sauce that you've got here, which has got your oil, your sesame oil, and your fish sauce and your soy sauce will also have some seasoning in it. So right at the end, when you're happy that your rice is hot through, I'm going to stir that in. And at this point, I would add my spring onions as well. I'm just going to let that cook through and we are pretty much done. So the cooking process is very, very quick. Obviously not including cooking your rice, but it really doesn't take long. Extremely nutritious meal. There we go. So you've got the rice from the carbohydrate section, you've got your eggs from the protein section, you've got your vegetables from the fruit and veg section, and of course you've got your oils from the oil section. So, you know, a fantastic meal to have. Have a go, boys. You can play around with different vegetables in there. You don't have to have what I had. But yeah, give it a go.